It is now 6:01, and I am going to call this meeting of the Milton Zoning Board of Adjustment for August 23rd, 2018 to order. I will first open for any public comment, which would be unrelated to the motion for a hearing that's going to be before us in a moment. No? None? Okay. Next item is a motion for rehearing Ray the Three Ponds Resort Mighty Joe Campground Map 28 Lot 4, Case 2017-7, Special Exception Request to expand Mighty Joe Campground. We have the official appeal. Yes? Oh, thank you. We have a couple of members who need to step down. One is in a butter and therefore cannot sit. And then Brian, you weren't part of the decision that denied, so you should not.
He could stay there, can he?
He should probably sit down.
Oh,
I don't want any appearance.
I need the house.
Okay. You, on the other hand, I think, because you did participate, you didn't vote. And so you won't vote in this piece, but by all means, I would think you could be part of the discussion around that. And I'll ask Chris Jacobs, yes.
I
disagree?
I would urge you not to
Okay.
allow that, because the discussion is part of the decision-making.
Okay.
The decision that has to be made tonight, that is.
Okay.
So it's part of the deliberations, and so it should only be the people who participated in the thing that came.
In the voting. Okay, thank you. So I will ask you
Sorry,
not to participate and discuss. Okay. I'll ask Chris Jacobs to stand to a seat today, and he was part of that decision. All right. So I do not have any intention of reading the entire request into the minutes. It's part of the public record. I would suggest we start by just addressing each of the primary criteria where they state we made error. We can discuss and then vote on those individually. Yes.
Does the chair wish a motion to enter all the material into the public record of the meeting and specify that we have decided not to read it point by point?
I suppose that's fine, but I don't know that it's necessary.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't think I mean, it's part of the record. And we do have an abutters group objection to the motion for hearing, which everyone has received, which will also be part of the record. And has everyone had an opportunity to read both materials? Or does anyone need copies made? No. Okay. So, any discussion before we get into the first criteria? I think we should probably...
You're going to go back down through each criteria?
The items that they've identified where we made error. I'm not going through the entire decision, but I'm going through, each one of these ones where they state we made an error, I think we need to discuss and say, did we not? And then we can make a vote at the very end as to whether or not to grant or deny.
I'll cut to the chase. I'm going to make a motion that we do not grant a rehearing to case number 2017-7 on the basis this board, I feel, did not make a error as discussed or presented in their request for rehearing.
Second. I'll second it.
All right, so it was seconded by Larry already.
I'm sorry.
You can third it? No?
Third.
All right, discussion on the motion. Okay, hearing none, I'll take
Well, I would like to
okay.
please say that having read the thing in full, and when I say the thing, having read the request for rehearing, motion for rehearing filed by Attorney Malloy for Three Ponds Resort LLC, and also reading the abutters group objection to Three Ponds Resort LLC's motion for rehearing, the basis for the motion for rehearing is that the applicant and their attorney feels that we made a mistake. I don't feel we made a mistake. I thought it was well presented, both sides. I thought it was well discussed thoroughly, and I thought the board gave its reasons why certain criteria were denied. Enough said.
I
Agree
agree
with that.
I agree with that.
Okay. Anyone else want to discuss?
Could I just say something before you vote?
Yeah.
Whatever your vote is tonight, whichever way you decide, which is basically for or against the motion, I would like to see a written decision come from this board.
Okay.
So I have brought with me an outline of a written decision for you to consider, both to approve the granting of the motion
Yep.
and the denial of the motion. 'Cause
Sure.
I have no idea which way you're going to go. So depending on how you vote, I would like to discuss with you whichever one seems appropriate and go through what I've put together to see if you're comfortable with it, as to adopting it as your reasons, or whether there should be something taken out or more put in, you know, along that line.
Okay.
Can we see the letter ahead of time so that,
No.
okay.
And the reason I say that is I don't want to do anything
That
to leave
sways
the
votes,
impression that
please.
I'm advocating one way or another.
Oh, okay, no,
Okay.
yeah,
That's why I brought two different decisions.
okay. So you can actually, so you're telling us, if I'm inferring correctly, you can actually, after voting, say these are the reasons why we're denying it?
Well, implicit in the motion will be that you're going to adopt a written decision. Or
I think what he's suggesting is he drafted an outline probably based on our last minutes or projected minutes, or the two different ones is what they
all the
could be.
different hearings, yeah.
And, you know, based on the different pieces that went here, and then afterwards we'll discuss it to say, well, no, we don't agree with that piece. We want this statement or language in
Right.
there instead.
But I need direction, like from the motion, the type of motion that Chris made, as to which way you're going.
Okay. So,
That I will offer one comment, and that is for the working of the zoning board on any case that we might be discussing in the abstract. If we discover of ourselves an error of procedure or a misunderstanding of law, and that is left unaddressed in the subsequent review of the case in front of us, it creates a second error. And it's our obligation, once we identify an error, to change our view of the facts.
okay.
That's my position on any case we might be addressing.
Okay.
Wait, can I ask, Larry, so even though you seconded my motion,
Mhm.
correct? So even though you may vote in favor of my motion, are you saying that later on other information may?
No,
Okay.
I'm talking about the board's past action, and particularly where we found that we had not properly addressed the issue of regional impact. And once we knew we had not properly addressed regional impact, once we knew we had not properly addressed regional impact, if we continued to review the case without that knowledge, in my view, that creates a second error. And I see no error in our decision because we did, to the best of our knowledge and belief in the facts before us, act properly on the case. And I am in agreement with you.
Okay.
Anything further? Okay. So there's a motion on the table to deny the request for rehearing. And there was a second.
Can I ask the recording secretary to read back the motion?
As much as I caught?
Yes.
Okay. I caught that you motioned that do not grant a rehearing as you felt the board did not make an error as stated in the motion for a hearing.
Okay.
Was there more that you wanted in there?
No.
Should it also be phrased to deny as opposed to not grant?
To not, rather to deny the motion for a
Just-
hearing rather than do
What
not
you-
grant?
Whether it requires a parallel construction, that's all.
Okay, so what's our motion now?
Do you want it to say deny rather than do not grant?
Chris, it's your motion, I'll let you decide.
See what the wording was of the request. Their request is, for the reasons stated above and those presented in the numerous public hearings, Three Ponds respectfully request that the Milton ZBA grant a motion for rehearing.
Nope.
So what was my wording? Deny?
You said do not grant.
Do not grant. I think it's, do not grant is, he used grant, I use grant.
Okay.
President Grant would concur.
All right, so, motion on the table has been seconded. A yes vote is a vote to not grant a rehearing. A no vote means that you feel that we should have a rehearing. So all in favor, vote aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions, none, that's 4-0. To not grant a rehearing on this motion, on this, this case. So, with that in mind,
Okay. Can I show you these? And again, this is to be your decision. So if there's anything in here that you're not comfortable with, let's change it. Correct it or whatever.
thank you.
And what I've done is the first 3 paragraphs are basically just background of the case, the history of the case. So I've tried to describe that. Well, let me let you read it through first.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, if I could just summarize. First 3 paragraphs is briefly describe the history of the case. And then what I've tried to do is describe the different claims that are made in that motion for a hearing. And try to anticipate accurately your thought process based on the comments that many of you made during the hearing process. The first claim he makes is that you were wrong in finding that this was a case of regional impact. And he doesn't give any explanation or reasons for that conclusion. And I anticipated that you weren't persuaded by his lack of argument. The second argument, he claims that despite the needing to start over with respect to, as dictated by once you did find regional impact, you should have been stuck with just discussing Standard 3, which was the sole reason for denying it back in September. And what I've tried to anticipate here is two reasons. One, you had 3 new abutters here as a result of the regional impact: the Stratford Planning Commission, the town of Lebanon, and the town of Acton. And they were entitled to participate in a full hearing. And so that's why you started over again, considering all the standards. And also, aside from that, independently from that, and of the applicant's own volition, they decided to, partway through, to file a new application. It wasn't a significantly changed application, which you allowed them to do in this proceeding rather than going through the bureaucracy of starting all over again. But still, it's new facts, and everybody was entitled to have their say on those changed facts. The next argument they make is that trying to remember what he said.
That they're
There was-
disagreeing with our judgments,
Yeah,
but yet in so doing,
that's the last one, but
I missed one.
I think. But those judgments, they're not saying anything more than they said in
There's no new
in the
evidence.
processing. Right. The other argument that they make is that you found in the September 7th decision that certain conditions, you being this board, that certain conditions had been met that you changed your mind on by the time, by the final decision in June. And he claims you can't do that you're stuck with the earlier decisions. And I think in arguing such a conclusion, the applicant is ignoring two things. One, you had a lot more facts before you in June than you had in September. And secondly, the makeup of the board had changed significantly. So, of course, there was the possibility of people thinking differently. That's what it says.
And third, the applicant had significantly changed or modified their own application of their own fruition.
Do you want me to put that in?
You did.
You
Is
did.
it? Okay.
Under
Okay.
2, it says
It
for the
is.
sake
Yeah.
of convenience to all, the board allowed the revised plan to be substituted for the original,
Yeah.
rather than requiring the applicant to start all over. It was for the sake of convenience to all, or it could have been outright denied, thrown out and told re-advertise and start all over again. The same thing could have happened the last meeting when, if I understand correctly, they pulled other sites off the table.
Yeah.
So the application kept changing every single meeting, especially for the 2 that I attended.
Yeah, you were on
Not
those
at
too.
our request, their own request. So it's what is that, estoppel? You can't say that you were damaged in a decision where you changed your own application. You can't sit back bring in a different colored cow into the, and say that you were somehow damaged by the decision. It was your choice to bring that in. So, this letter in its entirety, I have to respect Attorney Mitchell's wording and reasons why he chose the words. I don't see anything in here that would cause me to want to argue with Walter, discuss with Walter.
Just remember, it's your decision, not
I
mine.
understand, but
Do we need to make a motion to accept this?
Yes, I think we will. Yes. Now, I see you have a couple of notes.
That, the wording which might be of necessity in court is not the wording that appeals to my English major heart. Under point one, I have rewritten that sentence to read.
Which sentence?
Starting with because the board's early failure.
Arabic 1, because of the board.
Read the whole thing
Oh,
with
no.
your new words.
My wording, which may be inconsequential, goes as follows. As a consequence...
No, please read from the beginning as how you would have it read.
That's
From, oh, I apologize. Okay, never mind, go ahead. You were doing just that. Okay.
And I apologize for my handwriting as well. Under point one, I changed it slightly for my ear to read as follows. As a consequence of the board's initial failure to make a decision on potential regional impact, 3 new parties were added to the case who were then entitled to be heard. This required that the board start over, and it did so.
Larry, there's no magic to my language.
Oh,
Or in
yeah,
terms of
if-
legal strategy or anything. The only goal is to make it as clear as possible, and if the board thinks that makes it clearer, that's fine with me.
It is your own opinion. If it makes no difference, then it stands as presented to us.
Well, no.
No, that's not what he's
That's
saying.
not
He's
what I'm saying at all.
he's saying if this board decides that we like your language better, it's fine. He's saying
Yeah,
there's no
I
legal
have no
consequence
Then,
not to.
if you do, fine. Early initial.
well, if anything, I dislike the words early failure.
I'm sorry, did you?
He
I
said
dislike
initial
the words.
failure, and it was initial, I mean, it was at the start, so it should have been addressed.
I would be more comfortable with the wordings because of the board's late recognition of potential regional impact. In other words, what you've said, Walter, as the case was being presented, as more facts were being offered and brought to light, the board recognized
So, because of the board's, and is that
the
okay with you,
potential
Larry?
regional impact,
Late recognition of
or late discovery, one of them.
Discovery, yes.
discovery of,
Yeah.
what was the rest of what you said, Chris?
Because of the board's late recognition
Discovery.
of potential,
Okay.
so you'd strike the words.
Yeah.
I mean, I equate that to, you and I, Larry, have done enough house renovation that I wouldn't call it an early failure to find termite damage, it's
The
just,
late discovery.
it's
yeah.
late discovery.
Yep.
So
It's always been there.
So it would be discovery or recognition.
Well, either word.
That's fine.
Either word.
Sure.
discovered.
Discovery's fine.
And then the rest of that sentence,
It's fine with me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how does it read now?
yeah, you
Because
changed
of the
that.
board's late discovery of potential regional impact, When it did so, that added 3 new parties to the case who were entitled to be heard. That required the board to start over, and so, and it did so.
Okay.
Yep.
Yep, I'm good.
That's it. I like that balance.
Okay. Anything else?
My wife says I have a hard time admitting when I'm wrong. So this just further.
But you have such an easy time admitting you're right.
I always say to her, as more facts became present, I changed my mind.
Do we have any other input on the language? No? Okay. Can I have a motion to,
Now, why did you have Andrew Rawson down?
He voted.
he was one of the members, so that would have to come off of this, correct?
Yeah, or just doesn't sign.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right, he was here for this.
For the denial of
Second,
the
right.
application, but
Right.
not
Right.
for this denial today. So is there a motion to,
I'll make the motion to adopt this letter of denial as
Amended.
amended.
As the board's decision and as amended. So here's a amended copy.
okay,
People can sign.
is there a second on that motion?
Larry waved his hand.
Larry, second. All in favor, vote aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. And so we're going to sign this one right here.
You need 1 or 2 signed.
All
We
of
should also.
No, just 1 copy.
Oh.
Sometimes they need a second copy. You just need 1.
Just one.
Okay.
Probably should have gotten it over here first.
Chris?
Sign for me, Chris, right?
Sure. Not really. Never do that.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay.
We are done.
No, we're not.
No,
I mean,
Stuff
with
we
this,
do.
with that,
You're done with me.
yeah, we are done with
Will
that
you be
case.
sending me an amended first sheet or send it like this?
Let's let the board decide. First of all, whatever happens is first time, keep this.
Okay.
And Dana was asking whether I should send her a revised first page. Is that okay with the board?
Yes,
Well,
please.
cleaner.
Yep, I think so, and then we can sign it again. in our-
No,
the
I
second
can
page
still
is
use the
signed.
signature page.
Oh, okay.
And she will keep
23rd,
the
right.
handwritten version just to verify. that It
Okay.
hasn't changed anymore.
Okay. That works for me.
Okay, good night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You want our initials on page 1?
Pardon me?
You want our initials on page 1?
We could. All right, number 4, review and discuss request for fee waivers. We received, where's the request?
That way the sign.
We received a request for a case that is not before us today, but we are hearing in 2 weeks, correct? 2 weeks from tonight, or is it a Wednesday? What's the date?
The 6th, it's a Thursday.
The Thursday, 2 weeks from tonight. Now, I know that the request went before the Board of Selectmen, who has authority over portions of the fees, whereas the zoning board only has authority over the application fee. Is that correct? Am I saying that
That's what I was
accurately? Okay. So, on the night of August 20th, the Town of Milton Board of Selectmen our Tebow motion not to waive the postage and public notices costs associated with the town zoning case. E. Hutchins seconded 2-0. So that portion, they've chosen not to waive. I will take discussion on the board. My personal thought at the moment is, I don't think we need to make a decision on this until after we discuss this in 2 weeks, because I think that that may, in my mind, provide clarity as to whether or not something like that is deserved.
Why is the question even coming up?
Because they had asked,
They're the applicant?
the applicant requested that we waive the fees for an appeal to administrative decision that we are hearing in 2 weeks. And I just don't think makes sense to hear that now and to decide that as a board at this moment in time, not having heard the case and the arguments for that.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman. I would not expect you to determine the fee waiver until the case is heard. I was surprised to see it on the agenda.
So was I, but okay, thank you. So, that being the case, does the board
Agree.
agree? Okay.
Yeah.
Do we need a motion, or can we just leave it? I'll take a motion, just to be
Table
safe.
Just take
Table it, motion to table.
Second to table.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. And realistically, Brian should be back sitting at this point. So did you vote on that?
Yeah.
Okay. And you voted in affirmative?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so, did you have a question? Oh.
And Steve.
He's in a butter to that one too.
Yeah.
So,
It's the same case.
however, this next item, review and approval of formal notice of decisions, case 2018-1. That's the one that was for last month?
Yes, and Steve
Yeah,
can come
and
back.
Steve.
So you can come back to that. I will not personally vote on that one because I
Neither
wasn't
will I.
here.
I'll
So,
abstain.
okay, so I'll let you folks review that notice and discuss on that.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
question.
sir.
Is there a public copy of what you're discussing? Is this a change?
I don't think it's related to your case.
No, I mean,
Oh,
just in
okay.
general. I mean, there are obviously questions. It wouldn't be applicable to ours, but just going forward.
I'm looking to see if I have it here because I'm not going
I
to
don't
speak
have
to
any
it.
extras, but
You can have mine. I'm not speaking to it, so.
I appreciate that, Greg. I'm sorry. Oh, my apologies. I thought you were on the form for a special exception. I have no
Nope.
no
Oh, okay.
issue on the
Sorry.
on the notice of decision.
I was surprised, but that's okay.
My apologies.
No, that's fine.
Comments on the typeface?
so have you stepped down?
Pardon me?
Has Chris stepped down now that Steve's
Well, Chris
back?
was part of, Chris.
I was not here that night.
Oh,
It was
so we
just
only have two members who were, three members.
3.
Okay.
We're discussing Kingsbury.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's
okay,
fine.
Okay.
Right, so Chris does need to step down at the moment at
You can
least.
stay here if you want.
Yeah, he doesn't have to go anywhere, but he won't be
Slide
voting.
back. Okay.
I was not here
No,
last
It
meeting.
was just the 3 of us.
Oh, Lord, I'm
There was-
sorry.
You remember because my
You
guest.
shared that. I know why I'm drawing a blank. I was chair that night.
I was awake, I'd rather been here.
But,
A reluctant chair,
we're like the chair, but I heard shots. I was curious.
We got the
That, okay. Then, Stan, you were here. Do you want to?
I was there that night.
No.
It was just me, you, and Steve.
And
And
Then.
Andrew?
Mr. Rawson.
and
Okay.
You have your quorum on it.
Yep, so you can discuss your notice of decision if you're happy with the language, and then you folks can also
Okay.
sign it if you're happy with your language.
Then.
Wait, it's got me on there as chairman.
That's easy changes.
Okay.
They can
Don't
just
sign it.
note that those, because it would also have to change the Board of Adjustment on August 23rd. Signing, approving.
Okay.
yeah, and the
by a
names
vote of.
yeah.
It would be.
Okay. Then, am I stepping up as temporary chair?
Oh, no,
You don't have to.
No,
No,
okay.
I'll keep running. You guys just need to
Oh, okay.
make a decision on your language, make a motion. I'll call for a vote.
Sure. The copy that you're looking at right now, on page 1. Nope, never mind, that is right. Sorry, I was gonna say June 28th was wrong, but it's not. Yes, Andy was here for that one.
Yeah.
It originally did start on June 28th.
Okay.
The only thing I see here that needs to change is just the list of members.
You just don't sign it.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
I read this earlier today. I didn't notice anything.
Larry?
Um,
No, you can finish reading.
Yeah, take-
Just Ryan, and then Steve, yep. None opposed to approve, yes. No problem.
I'll take a motion.
Yeah, I'll motion to approve the formal notice of decision on case 2018-1
With amendments.
with amendments, yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? I abstain, there's 2 abstentions. Okay.
I will make the changes tonight, Larry, if you want to sign. If you want Larry to sign as acting chair again.
Yep.
I will hurry up and wait.
Okay.
Good.
Review new special exception application forms. And of that, do we have an extra? You do have an extra. You can have.
So I did, but I didn't send out to you. I provided you one that's a little more Milton. It says draft. The one that doesn't say draft is the state form. I'm not asking to change any other part of the special exception application, just the part that they fill out to benefit the non-professionals that ask for special exceptions.
Okay.
The everyday person, just so, because when you look at the way it is now, they don't necessarily always realize that they need to actually
Address those items.
Do
write a narrative to prove their 5 criteria. This provides at least a space to give them an idea of, hey, we're looking for some answers up front. It has a little box of, give it a case number, date it's filed, time it's filed, who received it.
Does the rest of the application spell out what those specific criteria are?
The other part of your application does.
So this would just
yes.
be part of the existing
Yep,
application?
so it would replace, I can go grab another one.
Could you?
Yep.
Thank you.
Are we open for discussion on this?
Yep.
I mean, this is far better than the other one that we've got. Though I just like that it breaks it down in all the criteria. People understand that, oh, I need to address each and every one of these things. Because the other one's just a block of empty space there and just address the
Interesting,
kind of
okay.
thing. Because did she give a copy of the old one? I'm looking
Well, she's
at it.
bringing it.
Oh, okay, all right.
She went to just go grab
Well,
it.
that's what it was.
I know.
So,
Oh, I see.
yeah, it's got just like that block there.
Okay.
So,
And keep paging down.
So this is what,
and then it's just a blank page
It is.
after that, too. Yeah.
this is what it is currently.
Okay.
And I'm not asking to change pages,
Yeah, which gives the
1,
directions.
but this is the criteria here,
Okay.
2, or 3. Or the abutters. Obviously, there's an abutter page that's missing from, oh, it's on the back.
Sure.
Yeah, it's the,
But I only want to update this one.
Yep.
It was drafted off of the state standard one that they have in the handbook that they do every year.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to adopt this new form.
Bob, I'll open for public discussion. Is there any public input on this? Okay, hearing none. I'll close public discussion. You're making a motion?
To adopt this new form.
I'll make the second for discussion, and just a small point. I always like forms that have the date of the form and the date of the revision
I agree.
on them, so you know.
I can do that
Yeah.
on the bottom of it.
Revision date. I would also ask for clarity, if this is meant to make it easier for folks who are more laymen in this, explain how the proposal meets special exception criteria as listed on page whatever of this application.
So,
Because they're gonna say,
So with
well,
that-
okay, which criteria? Well, it happens to be 2 pages in.
well, no, it's on, actually, your criteria 2 is listed in your, it's in your zoning ordinance. I'm pretty
No,
sure.
I realize that, but in this application,
That might be
they're getting this as part of the application. And I would like to say, explain how the proposal meets the special exception criteria located on page, on the first page.
Page 1 rather than on, so,
Yeah.
rather than article blank of the zoning ordinance section this.
You can put page 1 in parentheses. You can read the
See
definition.
also page 1 of this application. What did you write?
Just, I see where he's going. He's trying to guide him.
Yeah,
Ask for it and use it. So I'm,
what'd you say?
no,
Alright.
Oh.
Larry wanted to point out to people in the public that they actually have to ask for the ordinance and then actually read it and then use it,
Oh.
apply it.
I tell them where it is.
So is it my point moot? That's fine.
No, I can have it say, as shown on criteria, page 1, or change it rather than say, okay, so where you want it to say, instead
Meets
of
the-
explain how the proposal meets the special exception criteria as specified in article this, section blank of the Milton zoning ordinance, you want it to say,
Oh,
explain how the.
no, that's fine. So what, now would that change?
So that could, if,
Okay.
the only time that would ever change is if each special exception, if each special thing that was if each item that requires a special exception in your table of principal uses had its own, like, further specific criteria for that thing, that's when I think, and this is based off of the state form, this is how the state does theirs, has theirs.
I'll
'cause
follow
it-
the state because I'm sure there are plenty of lawyers involved.
Yeah.
That's fine.
And it's still,
No.
it's still gonna be right now for Milton zoning ordinance,
Yep.
it's your article.
There's only one
Yep.
thing it'll be. Well, then I think we ought to just put that in.
Yeah, we can
Specify
fill it
the-
in, and then if in the future it changes, we can make a further amendment.
That's fine. That works for me. So, do you want to withdraw your motion and do a motion as amended?
I'll add to amended.
Okay. Second? All in favor? And do you have something else?
No,
All in favor to approve the changes to the application for special exception as amended?
Aye.
Vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Abstain.
Okay. Discussion and approval of meeting minutes. I have not personally had an opportunity to read through the May 24th minutes in detail, so,
Make a motion to table, May 24th.
okay. Second? I'll second that one. All in favor of tabling the May 24th, 2018 minutes to our next meeting, which is in 2 weeks? Vote aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, you're opposed? Okay. Did we had a majority?
yeah, I'm with you.
Okay.
My only concern on the opposition is that this is going to be, if there's a filing in Stratford Superior Court, they're going to be looking for final minutes. That's all.
And I think giving 2 weeks for us to properly look at those,
Oh.
hopefully will
In
be
other words, you handle it on the 6th.
correct.
Okay.
That's your final table.
What's that?
So that's your final table.
That's right. Well, I'll make sure I read them in time and mark them appropriately. All right.
Find all the, as Larry calls them, Scribner errors.
All right, so the next is discussion and approval of meeting minutes for July 26, 2018. I wasn't here, so therefore, it's left to the 3 of you again who were here to determine, 1, if you've read them, 2, if you're happy with them or have amendments to them.
I have read them. I didn't notice anything out of the order.
Okay?
I'm going to abstain on those because I was not present.
I was here and found nothing objectionable.
Larry, anything? You see? Nope, nothing? All right. Then I'll take a motion to approve as written.
I will make that motion.
I will make that second.
All in favor of approving the minutes of July 26, 2018 as written, vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? There's 2 abstentions.
Wait, yes, you-
Well, he can't
No, he's
abstain because
not.
he's not voting.
Yeah, I'm not voting.
He's
I
not
wasn't
actually
here.
sitting, he wasn't here for that
Right.
meeting,
Wasn't
so
here.
he's not
Neither
part
were
of that
we.
discussion. Exactly, that's right, it's a different
He's an
thing.
alternate.
We're, exactly, we're elected members. All right. Any other business to come before this board?
I do have one quick note.
Yes.
My wife is pregnant, and the due date is Christmas. So as we get closer, I may not make some of the later
You have
meetings.
nothing to say.
Unacceptable.
You'll have to make sure she doesn't go
And
labor.
I also have no
and-
phone signal, which is going to be an issue. So, here anyway.
The zoning board will adjust.
See what you
Well,
did
first
there.
I'll say congratulations. Bob.
Yes, congratulations.
Very good. All right, any other? Yes, sir.
Some of us attended the planning board meeting the other night, and they're going to go through and take a look at all the special exceptions that the town of Milton has and get rid of some or modify some. So you may want to discuss, or at least touch bases with them. They want to, like, high density, low density zone. Why, you know, why do somebody have to go through the zoning board if they're going to put in a overnight bed and breakfast?
Okay, interesting. So, that is the planning board's jurisdiction really to come up with those, what's appropriate for
Right.
zoning. And then would leave this board effectively to interpret and decide in the future. So, I mean, any one of us could certainly go as a member of the public and voice opinion, but I don't know that this board necessarily
Please.
should be necessarily telling them. I know, that's an interesting point.
There will be a public hearing if
Yeah.
they get it done for this year's vote, and then it will go to voters. It will be a zoning amendment that's proposed on the zoning.
It's very
On the
dangerous
card.
territory for a board member to actually express publicly an opinion with respect to zoning. For instance, if the town wanted to go to 5-acre zoning, let's say, to control growth, and a board member was adamant that that's not the way the town should go, and then subsequent decisions were brought before the board with respect to granting relief, and that member always,
Voted in favor of granting relief.
one way or the other, right, granted in favor of relief, that would show a predisposition to the court for that particular zoning board member, and would be grounds for overturning decisions.
Good point.
So it's tough, and that's why you and I have had discussions that coming into this place of deliberation and leaving from this place of deliberation, I try not to enter into discussions with others, because someone could say, well, he said in the parking lot, or she said on the paper. It's tough. This is a quasi-judicial board, and your opinions do matter. That's all.
Could I comment as an abutter on that case?
Oh, next week, when you have to step down? Yes, I think so.
Yeah, well, you got to speak to the public.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, but I mean, as a function of this meeting, could I raise an issue that was a follow-on to what Joel had just stated? 'Cause I went
Not
to-
as an abutter about the case we've been discussing and hearing.
Okay,
No, that you should not speak of from this board
all right.
in the session. When you're a member of the public, you can speak as a member of the public, but you should not, that would
All
not
right.
be appropriate.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
It's,
Anything else?
All set.
I'll take a motion.
You got it.
second.
Motion to adjourn is on the table. All in favor, vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Now, how about
Opposing.
that three-game slide?
Thank you, folks.